So just the basic work life recap. What we're gonna do is talk about what happened since I last made videos, which is like 6 months ago or something. A long time. So I was working on my business a lot. Um, and that was with me and a bunch of buddies. And I went from I'm just gonna kind of go over stuff. I went from a cleaning business to then a home beautification business, and then to nothing essentially. And so we'll get into what happened. So um, I started cleaning. I was cleaning for myself for a little while, and I made some good money. And then I wanted to bring my buddies in for fun, for profit, and also so that I could kind of automate my business a little more because I knew soon I would have to move. Um, so I ended up doing that. I got my friends involved. It was really fun. It was also really stressful, and I learned some things about myself as well as my friends. Some things I learned about myself are that I'm not a great manager. You know what I mean? I have okay communication, but I I'm not great at prioritizing or making uh like big decisions, I guess. And I tried to kind of make it so that we could all make decisions together, but it didn't really work. And so when I did make decisions, they would be the wrong ones, and I wasn't able to kind of like recover from them sometimes. Nobody really lost that much money. Like really, I probably put like $300 into the business over like the period of 3 years or something. So it wasn't really a big loss to lose it, despite like the only loss really was just to kind of like the failure of a dream. You know what I mean? But that's not honestly, it's not even that big of a deal because it wasn't like my biggest dream or anything like that. But it's still, it's it's kind of sad. I'm sure I probably had a bit of a depression over it, but I'm past that. I grew out my beard some more. I actually shaved it some, and then but we didn't cut the sides as much. I went to like a barber, and then so now it's kind of growing in, kind of full in a way that looks kind of nice. But I don't know. I'm gonna keep messing with it. We had all that stuff with the business. There was a bit of drama because there was some people who basically called out on like one of our biggest jobs to date, and then also other people weren't basically they weren't doing what I wanted them to do in terms of their role in the business. And I think maybe it was just too much, like asking too much. So what ended up happening is people didn't have what they needed. People kind of called out, and I was like, I was like, all right, well, can you tell like the customer why you called out, like why you can't come in? Because I can tell them like I don't even really 100% know why. I think they said it was a car trouble or something, but I was like, I can tell them, but like it's gonna be more coming from you, I think, because you're the you have the real life reason. You know what I mean? Which looking back in hindsight, that might not really. It might have been more coming from me. I'm not sure, but like either way, it was kind of a pain. I think it was like we'd been planning it for 2 weeks, and then it was like 3 days before they're like, oh yeah, I can't do it. So I was trying to find somebody to kind of cover it in those 3 days, and I couldn't do it. And then they were kind of upset. The people who I got upset, they were mad at me because I waited like till the last minute to ask them to tell the customer something. And they're like, oh, you should have told them already, which maybe they're right. But at the same time, literally when I was talking to them, they were like, oh, well, I thought, well, maybe we. One of the people who I was talking to was supposed to do the job, like, said to me, oh, well, maybe we can do it. And it's like, well, if you can do it, you can do it. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like you're kind of trying to make excuses for yourself. But anyway, I'm not trying to say it's their fault. I do think it was genuinely my fault, poor leadership on my part. Maybe at times I didn't hold people accountable, but I think I also tried to rope people in, and so it's kind of like you get what you give. So if you're trying to get people in and then they're not prepared because you convinced them and they just didn't have like the preparations and you didn't prepare enough for them, that's on me. And so there's their side of it where they have to be responsible for what they couldn't do and what like their performance and stuff like that. But I got to be responsible for my side, which was the management and the kind of making it happen. So yeah, totally my fault. But anyway, so I ended up firing a guy because he was kind of being a dick to me. He was my friend. I don't know if we're still friends, but and he said we were. So I'm assuming we are. But anyway, so I fired that guy, and I was like, well, I'll talk to you in like a month or something, see if you want to change stuff up. And then that caused like a chain reaction of a bunch of people firing. So I might have been like just a horrible boss or something at that point. But it's fine. Nobody lost any money. Nobody lost their house. It wasn't super big. It was just kind of like a painful, awkward situation. So yeah. So that business ended. And while I was trying to keep it going though, like before that point, I was actually in Alabama, so I was kind of running it remotely, and that put a lot of strain on me. And as well as that, while I was in Alabama, I was taking care of my grandma and helping her out. So I had to kind of balance between my business and also like kind of my family down there, who I hadn't really seen my grandma for a while because before that point I was in Kentucky, and I didn't see any of my family when I was in Kentucky. I was so far away. Except one of my uncles came visit me when I was working at the Ark because somebody in Kentucky, a guy named Can decided it would be a good idea to just build a giant fucking biblical sized ark. I think that's insane. I didn't actually work there though. I worked for like a zipline company work with them. Anyway, moving on. It was kind of crazy too. I'm just gonna add. It was crazy because if you work for actual ARC people, which kind of makes sense, but it was like you had to be a Christian and they would check your social media and stuff to make sure you're a Christian. That sounds kind of just insane to go back to that. So I was trying to manage these two sort of things of my family and my business, and I tried to do them both. I couldn't really do them both, but so I ended up just taking care of my grandma, which I enjoyed that. I feel like I got to learn a lot about like listening and like trying to really hear people, and I don't know. I just got to learn more about it than I did as a kid because when you're a kid, at least me as a kid, I would just bounce all over the walls, you know what I mean? And so there's really no way to, for that type of personality, to really get to know people too well and really deeply on a sort of life day-to-day basis as I did there. So I helped her a lot. We talked, we talked about religion, like suicide, a lot of really deep stuff, and I learned a lot. Oh, and I got to hang out with my cousins some and like kind of give them good and bad life advice, which I don't think they followed it. The bad life advice, I think at least, because I would say if I gave bad life advice, I'd just be like, look, I don't know anything. I want you to have different perspectives. When you grow up in a small town and everybody knows each other's names, blah blah blah, it can be kind of like it can sequester off your kind of like life sometimes. It feels like you don't have anywhere you can go or do, and everything's gonna be the same forever. You know, if you've ever listened to a punk song or something like that, you know that I'm talking about. Like I hate my small town, it's so bad. That's how punk is, sure. It doesn't sound like that at all, but they have that sort of lyrics where it's like, oh, this sucks. So yeah. So I got to live there for a little while, and then um, eventually, what we started doing. We started working at the fair. Me and Mason did, which that's my partner, and we worked for the fair for a little bit. And yeah, that was pretty cool. So I worked with. I'm gonna make a note real quick. I worked with some people called Kin and Abby. Kin was the woman who kind of owned it, and Kin isn't her real name, and Abby also isn't the lady's real name. But I'm just the other lady's real name. But I just want to use those sorts of names because I don't really have their permission, so I don't want to like out anybody. But anyway, so I worked at the carnival with these people, and I was like, hey, me and Mason, we would get kind of gig jobs, which was my idea because I worked at a lot of jobs, but working at sort of for other people doesn't usually jive with me super great sometimes. So we worked. I would do gigs on Craigslist and stuff, and we found one where it was like people who wanted to work at it or people who are in a fair or whatever. And so we were like, yeah, I've done this before. Me and Mason, we actually worked for this dino stroll place where basically we would set up little like kiddie rides that were dino themed, and people would come in and see these huge animatronic like dinosaurs and crap like that. Um, for like $30 a pop, and it was a pretty easy job and really cool, very interesting. So we came to these other people who were doing some sort of carnival thing, and then they were looking for temps or whatever. Not we were like, yeah, we've done stuff like that before. Like we've worked at um like other carnival type places, well, place. And so then they're like, okay, sure, we'll help you out. And they're like, oh, we just want to make sure though that you're gonna come because some people will say they're gonna come and they're not coming. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna come. So we pull up to the place, and it's actually like on a military base. So we have to like go through customs, and they have to take pictures of us and our ID and stuff like that. And I was like, this is freaking crazy. So we get there like an hour late or something. But we work, and then the first day, Kin's mom is kind of like mean to me because I think I gave away too much stuffed animals. I was working on a game. I was like, hit these cups down, and you win a stuffed animal. And we were working at Oktoberfest. So everybody was drunk. It was pretty cool. And they had these bands playing like polka music. Um, Kin was cool. She was very like high energy, like yeah, like that. And I don't know. She was pretty cool. Abby was a lot more like chill though. Like she would be more upbeat, but kind of like a beat, whereas like Kin would just be like all over the place. But anyway, we ended up working with them for a little bit. It was a lot of fun, kind of crazy. You're working. We worked like that one weekend. They're like, "Hey, you want to work again?" So we worked there for I don't know how many months or whatever. But it was like on and off because I was still watching my grandma in Alabama, so I had to have obligations where I'd have to go back and then go there and go back. Um, and they would put us up in hotels and stuff. And I made them a lot of money because I guess because I come from a performing background, and I also, even though I can have a larger than life, personality, which I don't think comes across in this YouTube channel, but that's totally fine. I don't care that much. I think the most important part, again, is that second part, that genuineness or genuineness. But so that's the most important thing. And so I think that I people like that about me. They enjoyed that I could get their attention, but also they feel like I don't know, they feel like even though they're playing this game and it's probably rigged, it's still gonna be a fun memory with someone who's kind of like I don't know, personable, I guess. So yeah, I got people to play the games or whatever. We made a good amount of money. I made a lot of money for them. I made a lot of money for myself. Mason was working inside of a food truck with Ken and Abby, just serving a lot of people. And I think their Mason's job was actually it was a little more stressful than mine because I don't know, food can be stressful no matter what. But anyway, so we worked there. And then after a bit of time, we left them and we were like, yeah, let's we want to do this long term, but I need to make sure I take care of my grandma first, do all that stuff. We're like, all right. Um, you know, so we kind of had a plan. We were like basically, oh, I wanted to mention this too. So with the carnival or whatever, it's really weird. They have like it's almost like a nomadic lifestyle, almost like a gang or something like that. Like they have this sort of like community that's really different from a lot of other workplaces. Definitely different from the corporate life. There's probably a good few amount of drug addicts and a few drug dealers as well. But the main thing to me was that even if they might like, they didn't really do this to me that much, but overall, I feel like they had a kind of like shit talking personality. Like they would just talk shit to each other or whatever. But at the end of the day, like they'll still back each other up, and they're kind of competing with each other too. Like each individual business is competing with each other, but are also working together. And then that goes to like the very top person, the showmaster or whatever. Um, so it's pretty cool though, because they have this nomadic lifestyle, and there's a big focus on community as well as like I don't know, just independence. So it was really a cool environment, but also shady and shitty sometimes, just being genuine, just being straight up honest with you. So, you know, we kind of sell things there, and we're like, yeah, we don't want to live in a bunkhouse, which a bunkhouse, if you don't know, you take this long trailer, that they have on the road, like big 14 wheeler or whatever, drives that around the country. That's how you get like your TVs, your food, everything through the big truck drivers and everything, and all their loads. And so they take one of those big truck trailers and then cut it up into pieces with walls in the inside, right? It's not actually cut, just wall, 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 wall. And then people would live in each individual bunk. Me and Mason were like, well, we're married. We don't want to live in a bunkhouse, personally, and we're making pretty good money. So could we try to do something else? And like, yeah, we can, get like a little small trailer. And I was like, okay, you guys can get a trailer and I can get a truck and we can just um, pull that or whatever. And then I'll work with you guys, and I'll keep learning and kind of doing that for a little while. And that would be cool. Um, but I said, yeah, but first I got to take care of my grandma. That's my number one priority. So we went back, took care of my grandma for a while. And then eventually, then I had to leave Alabama, which is where I was living earlier. And I was like, yeah, so I watched my grandma by driving from Georgia to Alabama like every weekend or something. But then I was just like, or every I can't even remember. It was like Monday through Wednesday or something like that, through Tuesday. Before that, it was like a lot more days. But then I was like, well, let me just. I need to do less because I wasn't able to survive. I wasn't making any money. So I said, okay, well, you got to go to Georgia. And then I was like, and then I'll still come and watch. And then eventually I was like, I just can't like do both right now. And so I had to stop doing that. And then you know, months later or a month later or so or whatever, then the fair people, I'm trying to talk to them or whatever, but they're not really being responsive. They're not really, sorry, my nose itches. They're not really just communicating good at all. And I'm trying to like figure out what the plan is in terms of what we're gonna do and where we're gonna live and stuff like that. And Mason is already like, well, I don't want to work every day at this food truck 'cause it's just too much stress. So let's see if like ask them if I can work like 5 days or something like that instead of like I don't know, instead of 7 days a week or whatever. Can I work like a part time schedule, 5 or 4 days, something like that? And so I'm like, yeah, I'll ask them that. I'll see what we can do. So I tell them, and this is after basically me just being the one to initiate conversation. They not really kind of talking that much or giving us any sort of signals or signs. And months are kind of passing. What's going on? Weeks and then months. Um, and so I asked them this stuff, and they're kind of not giving. The first when I say, "Oh, can she work part time?" They're like, "Oh no, we can't. We have to do a lot of work." And then somebody's like, "Well, look, I already don't want to work with them because they're not willing to work with me." And so like my ultimatum, this is what she's or this is what they're telling me, and then like my ultimatum is like, if they already have a place for us to live, then I'll go, and if they don't, then I'm not gonna go. And I was like, okay, that's fair. So I talked to them, and I'm like, all right, so okay, great. I'm like, yeah, I want Mason to come too. I want us all to work and everything. So where would we live? Let's move on to that. And then they didn't answer for a whole month, and the next month is when we're supposed to start. The last I heard was we started February. They started Florida, somewhere down in Florida. And so, yeah, I'm like, okay, it's been a whole month. It is a day since February, and they haven't responded. Um, so we're not doing it. You know what I mean? Mason's definitely not doing it. And even though I feel like I'm kind of low maintenance when it comes to jobs to an extent, I was like, this is this is just too much. Like I don't want to put, my living conditions in the hands of someone who is just not communicating or not talking to me. And so then eventually, like on February 2nd or something like that, she kind of sends me a message, Ken, and she's like, "Oh, hey, is this you? Is this Antonio?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is me." And then she's like, "Oh, yeah, I dropped my phone in the ocean," which I'm like, "All right, I'm sure you dropped your phone in the ocean." I think she was kind of full of shit, honestly. But even if she did, I said, "Well, you had my number, and so did Abby, so I don't see how you couldn't have contacted me, and you also have Mason's number, so." Yeah, yeah, you could have contacted us for that whole week. And then so she was upset because we couldn't come, but I was just like, I'm sorry, like I cannot fix your lack of kind of teamwork and your lack of communication or whatever. I don't even know how to call it. But anyway, so that kind of fell through. And that was pretty recently. But before then, I still didn't really have much way of making money. I thought of doing a lot of different businesses. I was kind of done with the cleaning one and with the home beautification one, and so I kind of tried to do some of that, but I was like, I can't do it. And I feel like I was kind of going through depression too, with sort of just losing that, and then also losing that, losing the fair, and then also not being able to continue to like watch my grandma either. So it's kind of like a lot of plans I had in life were kind of just falling through. So I was kind of upset, and then I had ideas of like doing my own sort of like carnival stuff, like whether it be like street performance or games or whatever. It's obviously not very well thought out. That's kind of partially why I didn't do it, and then also partially I was just like, I don't know, I don't know what I really wanted, I guess, and then it seemed like what I wanted was kind of out of reach, so I was kind of like not feeling too good. But then what I ended up doing is I my sister actually was like, "Hey, I saw this place that has a job. Maybe you could apply there." And I had already been applying for a little while, mainly for a sales position because I was like, I did pretty good on commission, with these fair people. I bet I could do good commission, selling something else. But a lot of stuff I got was just scams or shit like that. But anyway, so I put into the place my sister got me an application for and told me about. So I applied and then I started working there. And lo and behold, as they say in the Bible. Um, I started working at a UPS, just a local UPS, which isn't very glamorous, especially when I really try to do stuff that I feel like I don't know, it doesn't have to be glamorous, but I want it to make me happy and make impacts. But the good thing about UPS is that, For one thing, it's not Amazon. You know what I mean? Amazon, you know all the shitty like stuff about their company, but UPS, I haven't really heard anything bad about it, and I should probably look, but I really haven't heard anything. I usually actually do search a lot, like almost all the companies I apply to or work for or whatever. Um, but anyway, so and you know they're shipping stuff, and so that's kind of helpful and good. Not exactly world changing, but yeah. Um, so yeah, I started working there. I worked for this guy called Mr. D, and I met all my coworkers who had like these crazy nicknames like JJ or I don't know, like uh, Boogie and stuff like that. And then I was like, I love y'all's nicknames. They're so much better than my name. My name's just Antonio. That's so boring. Um, but yeah, it was really cool working for them. It was a chill work environment, and things are going pretty good. Sadly, there's a lot of people calling out, and then you know my boss, Mr. D, is like upset about that. So I'm worried that now a lot of people are gonna like that there's gonna be like a changing of the guard, and I don't really want that. But overall, like things are going good, and you know I'm making a little bit of money. And once I kind of have a good idea, you know I'll probably start my own business. And then one last thing I wanted to talk about is basically like I want to talk about tabletop role playing games, but I think I'll save that for another video. But I want to talk about how tabletop role playing games have such a amazing effect on kind of like just the world. If you've ever watched Stranger Things, or if you've seen like the Tales of Vox Machina, or the Twitch kind of group Critical Role, or other ones, there's a whole bunch, and there's a lot of really cool stuff going on there. And I'm probably gonna try to talk about that a little bit. But I think that's it for now. So that's my life recap right there. I hope you guys have a great day, and you know, just be chill.